Hi, I'm Chantel Rodriguez from Millcreek Township.
And I'm Jessica Stutzman. Welcome to the Millcreek Government Channel.
We're here with Caitlin Driscoll, Public Relations Director of the Better Business Bureau, to discuss how the BBB is helping consumers and businesses navigate trust in today's marketplace. Caitlin, we're so happy to have you here on the show, seeing that you drove 3 hours to be here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome to Erie. So,
love it.
good. Yeah, and like we just said, we're starting to thaw out. So, if you want to see us in our prime, it would be in the middle of summer, but we are thawing out right now. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the topic that we have on hand is the BBB advice for hiring a contractor you can trust. So I know we're homeowners, and we talk about it all the time as far as the patience and the smart budgeting that comes with being a homeowner and doing home improvement projects. So how common is it for someone to encounter issues when it comes to hiring a home improvement contractor, and what kind of problems could be reported to the BBB?
And it's such a timely topic, too, because spring is home improvement season. All of the different home and garden shows are happening. But you really have to be careful when you're looking to hire someone. Over $99 million had been reported to BBB Scam Tracker as being lost to home improvement scams.
Wow.
And this category had actually been identified as the 5th riskiest type of scam to people all across the board, but especially those 65 and older we found are most at risk of being targeted and actually losing money to different home improvement scams. But definitely typical types of issues, complaints that we tend to hear about involve people paying money or some type of deposit, sometimes the entire cost of the project up front, and the contractor never showing back up to do work, or maybe just starting the work and then just not showing up to do any significant portion. And then, of course, having issues related to customer service, getting back in touch with the company, and even after the fact, despite maybe having a warranty in place, a contract, being able to get in touch with the contractor if there's an issue that comes up, say, a year later after an Erie winter has taken place and there's issues.
And I'm so glad we're talking about this. It's one of the things that probably gives me the most anxiety. Home projects are not cheap, and I think you save so much, of your hard-earned money to do this big project. You're so excited. I mean, it could be anything from your roof to getting your driveway redone. And it can, a project can be $5,000 or $30,000, and you have saved for years for that. And so, I think I know I can personally, I don't know, I assume everybody here can, I feel like I can recount at least one story last year of, friend or family member that had this happen to them. And it just makes you feel gutted,
And not only that, it's so much money. Your home is very emotional to you, but if you think about it, especially if you're a first-time homeowner, you're not buying or shopping for a new roof every year. It's something that you may be doing for the first time, that you're not sure who to turn to, what questions to ask, or even what really legal recourse you have in certain situations. So we're really trying to get the word out.
Yeah. So what are some tips to ensure that you're dealing with a reputable contractor? Because I know my gut is to just go to the Better Business Bureau website. That's my gut reaction.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear.
So what other tips do you have?
Definitely bbb.org. So that way you can research companies based on your area. So if you need a plumber or an HVAC specialist, even, you can just search for that category, put in Erie or your zip code, and it'll bring up a whole list of contractors that are closest to you that you could check their ratings, their complaint history, so you can see how many complaints have been filed against a business, the nature of those issues, whether a company responds to those issues, which I think is the most important part. We always hear from businesses that maybe get their first complaint and they're extremely upset about it. And we always tell them that's unfortunately the nature of the game. You can't please everybody. And sometimes it's the consumer that's right. Sometimes it's really the business that's right. But we present both sides of the situation so the consumer can make that decision for themselves if they really want to trust that business with your hard-earned money and sometimes even personal information. But in addition to that, the bare minimum legal requirement in the state of Pennsylvania is for a home improvement contractor to be registered through the PA Attorney General's office through their Bureau of Consumer Protection. And then once they're registered, they're given a home improvement contractor number that they legally have to display on any advertisements, like if they have a company vehicle, on the contract that you sign. So make sure you look for that number and verify that it's actually valid, that it hasn't expired. Any businesses that are accredited by the Better Business Bureau will have taken that step and vetted them and made sure that they meet all of the legal basic requirements. But certainly make sure you look for that information. But just keep in mind, that's the bare minimum legal requirement. So you really have to do all of your other research and ask different questions, get different estimates from contractors as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said that, because you could have the number displayed, but it might not be up to date anymore. And
Yes.
so as the homeowner, you should do your due diligence to make sure that that they're still in good standing. And what I also wanted to ask about was the rating or grading scale from the Better Business Bureau. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So companies are rated on a scale of A+ to F. So just like in grade school, where A+ is certainly the most positive and F is the most negative. And when you access a company's business profile through our website, or you can always give us a call for the same information too, it'll tell you the reason behind that rating based on a company's complaint history, how long they've been in business, the size of the business, if any advertising issues have been reported to the Better Business Bureau, any government action has been reported. All of that information and more is taken into account with the rating system. You can also see if any positive, neutral, or negative customer reviews have been submitted about a company and read that information, as well as the company's response if they've provided one. And all of those customer reviews are vetted as well by the Better Business Bureau.
Wonderful.
And I know we were talking about bids and estimates, but when you're ready to start a project, how many bids or estimates is like the safe way to go as far as like, well, I got 2. Is that even enough? Like, where do you stop?
That's a great question. You definitely want more than one because a lot of the issues that we hear about, it's someone who will say, well, someone approached me at my home. They said that they had leftover material from my neighbor down the street. So I didn't even ask or talk to anybody else, just decided to go with that first person. We recommend getting at least 3 bids or estimates from different contractors. So just because if you get 2, maybe they're completely different. That third one can really give you a better idea most of the time on which end of the spectrum you should be looking at price-wise. But you really have to make sure that you're comparing the same materials, the scope of the project, the same kind of time frames as well, so that you're comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. But 3 estimates tends to be the recommended amount.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I have just learned in my experience is you may talk about it verbally. It's kind of, I guess, mutually understood that they're going to do this thing. But if it's not written down, at that point, it's probably not legally binding because you just had a verbal, and it would be best to have it written down.
Yes, you always want to get a contract, get all of the information in writing. And if you think about it, this is really not only to protect you as the homeowner and consumer, but also the business too. So the business should want that contract in writing. But any verbal promise that you get from a salesperson, make sure you have that included in the contract. In the state of Pennsylvania, there are specific criteria that need to be included in a home improvement contract as well in order for it to be valid. And All of that information is on our website as well at bbb.org. But a few things, the materials to be used, the starting date and completion date of the project should be included. The price, any payment terms, any contact information for the consumer and the contractor, as well as a list and contact information for any subcontractors that may be used on the project as well. But any of the costs involved should be included, as well as that payment schedule.
And the payment schedule, so we just talked about making one big lump payment up front, and then hopefully they don't just walk off the job or something like that. Is there a better structure to put in place when doing home improvement projects?
So we recommend using something called the rule of thirds. So only make a third payment up front. But there is a specific law when it comes to home improvement contracts as well. So for any job that is over $5,000, any job that's over $5,000, they are not allowed to accept a deposit in excess of 1/3 of the contract price, or 1/3 of that price plus the cost of any special order materials. And if there are special order materials involved, that should all be listed out in your contract, what those materials are, the names, and the associated prices. So that way they can't come back and try to tell you that more money is needed for XYZ. That all should be documented. But even if your contract doesn't meet that price threshold, I always tell people it's not a bad idea to still ask if you can pay in those increments of thirds, because most contractors already have their contracts set up that way. So it's usually not an issue, but just another way to help protect yourself. Certainly, if somebody's asking for all of the payment up front and it's a job over $5,000, or even if they're asking for half of the money up front, it's actually illegal for them to ask that of you. And certainly any reputable contractor should be well aware of that law.
And then, if they were to walk off the job, if you've only paid 1/3 of it up front, of course you're going to have to, go through the appropriate steps to get that back, but at least you're only out 1/3 of it and not all of it.
Absolutely. And, definitely use traceable methods of payment. So we always tell people that if you're able to pay by credit card and that's an option that the contractor will accept, that's the safest method of payment, because you're able to dispute that charge. It's not automatically connected to your finances. You also have the most amount of time in order to dispute that charge. If you're paying by check, make that check out to the business, to the actual contracting company versus to an individual's name. So, cash, of course, mobile transfer apps like Zelle, Venmo, things like that are really untraceable, essentially. So you really have to do your due diligence and make sure you're dealing with somebody reputable before paying through those methods.
Yeah, and I think we get so used to paying with Cash App, like I'll send you $5 through Cash App, or, just using those apps has made it so much easier when you're not carrying cash. But when it comes to something like this, maybe someone thinks, oh, just my friend knows them, like they're in good standing. But that also kind of brings me to the next question, as far as, should it be a concern if a contractor is claiming that a handshake deal is good enough and they have no need for a contract? So how should they go about that?
So you definitely want to emphasize the importance of a contract, especially with how much money is involved with these types of projects. Really, your contract is that protection. What they're promising to you, when they're promising to have it done by or completed, the different payment terms. You really want to have that all in writing in order to be able to protect yourself. And if you think about it, any reputable business should also want that information on their end so that they're protected too.
And is there any laws in place to help protect homeowners? We went over a couple already, but are there anything else to help protect even possibly against buyer's remorse?
Yes. So there is something called the 3-day right of rescission. So say somebody approaches you at your home. We've been getting a lot of storm damage throughout the area each spring, each summer. The weather's been a little bit crazy the past couple of years. And home improvement contractors will come soliciting in those areas, even coming from out of state. So if you do decide to enter into a contract and then maybe do some additional research, or you end up having somebody else come out to your home that you're not sure about whether you want to go with the original business, you have 3 days in order to cancel the contract. You have to send that in writing to the business, and then they're required to refund any money that you've paid as a deposit. You have 3 business days in order to do that, as long as you entered into the agreement somewhere that's not the business's place of business. So your home, if you go to a home show or like the Home and Garden show and enter into a contract, that law would apply to you. You'd have those 3 days. A contractor is also not allowed to deviate from any of the materials that are listed in your contract. So you're protected in that sense, that they can't just decide to replace the materials with something that's double the cost and tell you that you're bound by the contract. That is also against the law. They're not able to do that without an addendum, an update to the contract, and you signing and being aware of that information.
Or probably vice versa, in buying material that's cheaper and you're paying, a higher amount.
Yes. And that's especially with all of the issues regarding supply and demand. It's really important that you read all of that fine print and ask those questions, especially when it comes to lumber or different metals and things along those lines. If that price can increase at any point in time, and then what that process or procedure is. Because there are some instances where we'll receive complaints that someone entered into a contract over a year ago, they're about to begin, and they're told that the cost of lumber has gone up, or something is now difficult to find, so the price has gone up. But that's actually in their contract that they're able to do so within a certain amount or percentage and time frame. And you really have to be aware of that fine print just to protect yourself.
Not the most exciting to read, but absolutely necessary.
Well, and that comes to like even warranties. Is a warranty a separate component to that contract, or?
It definitely could be. So it may be included in the original home improvement contract, but it could be something completely separate. Definitely a good idea to ask about that, as well as to get all of that information in writing, like the contract. And don't just assume too, say you're getting a roof replaced. Usually there's some kind of warranty associated with the actual materials, with the shingles. That warranty may not include the contractor's labor. It might not be a labor warranty. So get that information, ask those questions, and get that included in writing.
Really be as detailed as you can be, especially when you're putting, a lot of money into your home. You want it to be done correctly, and also get everything that you want out of it, as well as the people who are coming into your home to do the service. So it's a lot of good information.
It is, and it just makes my wheels spin on like all the questions that need to be asked. And I know really I would like to push everybody to go to your website for all of that information, just to reiterate everything that we've said here today. If somebody does have a problem with a contractor, how can they report it to the Better Business Bureau?
So we always tell people, try to get in touch with the business first. Are they aware that there even is an issue? If you're unable to reach a resolution, you can file a complaint with the Better Business Bureau, bbb.org. Click on the file a complaint link, walks you through the entire process. Certainly, if you have the contract, receipts, documented information to back up your issue, include all of that information. If you're dealing with a flat out scam that you encounter, so you're not seeking any kind of resolution, you essentially want to warn others in the Erie area or Western Pennsylvania about something, you can always report it to BBB Scam Tracker on our website as well. You can also call us, 877-267-5222, normal business hours. If you're not as tech savvy or prefer to speak to someone local in our office.
Mm-hmm. And our show is coming to a close here soon. I have one last question. Are there any scams that you are seeing that maybe that we didn't touch on already?
I would just say more so with the spring season, we're starting to hear about door-to-door solicitation more as a tactic. And certainly it's something that legitimate businesses do as well as scammers. So make sure you know who you're dealing with, ask for a business card so that you can research that specific company. Don't give in to any high pressure tactics. And if they are soliciting door-to-door, contact to make sure they have a valid solicitation permit for your area too.
Absolutely, which I know we do require in Millcreek Township. So if you have somebody coming door to door in Millcreek Township, feel free to ask if they have a peddler's permit. And if you're unsure, you can call the township and you can ask us if they have a peddler's permit. We're happy to give you that information as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
We appreciate it so much in the drive that you took here.
Excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Caitlin for driving out today and speaking to us on the Millcreek Government Channel. We hope that everything that she mentioned as far as advice can help you on your journey for home improvements. Thank you so much and have a great day.